Imagine this. You're holding a penny so ordinary, so dull-looking, that you nearly toss it into a tip jar. But in reality, that single coin could pay off your house, erase your debt, and buy you a new life. Right now, tucked inside old jars and dusty dresser drawers across America, sits a coin so rare, so overlooked, that almost no one knows its secret. A 1968 Lincoln penny, bearing the tiny S mint mark. But why? Why would a penny from 1968, a year of protest, chaos, and change, suddenly be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars today? And what is hiding in its copper surface that collectors are desperately hunting for? The story begins in San Francisco, where the mint had just been tasked with creating proof coins. Flawless, shining examples meant for collectors, not circulation. But here's the twist no one talks about. Mistakes slipped through. Mint workers struck certain coins with errors so subtle, so dangerous, that they escaped into the world disguised as nothing more than spare change. Imagine it. A misaligned strike, a doubled image on Lincoln's portrait, or the tiniest imperfection on the date. To most, invisible. To collectors, it's like spotting a diamond in a gravel pit. The San Francisco Mint, in trying to make perfection, accidentally unleashed treasures. And here's the haunting part. Millions of Americans spent those pennies without a second thought. Kids used them for bubble gum. Parents tossed them into parking meters. Entire fortunes were spent into oblivion. The wealth literally slipped through our fingers. Now pause. Ask yourself, how many of those rare survivors are still out there, sitting quietly in coffee cans, forgotten coin folders, or even in your own pocket change? What if you've already touched one and let it go? The demand is fierce. Every time a 1968 penny with doubling on its date or lettering surfaces, the bidding wars erupt. Some sell for thousands. Others, under the right conditions, climb toward life-changing numbers, nearly $1 million. All for something the size of your thumbnail. But let's make this real. Picture a man in Ohio, sifting through his late father's coin collection. He's tired, overwhelmed, ready to cash it all in for face value. Then his eye catches a subtle shadow on the number 9 of the date. He sends it for grading. Weeks later, the call comes. That penny is no ordinary penny. It's a double die from 1968's. Its value? Enough to cover his children's college tuition in full. His life changed in an instant, so here's the truth you cannot ignore. If you want freedom, if you want the chance to stumble upon wealth that doesn't require luck in the lottery, you need to know what to look for. On a 1968 penny, inspect the date, especially the 9 and the 6. Watch the lettering, Liberty, and In God We Trust. Look for shadows, doubling, distortions. And condition matters. A scratched-up penny is still worth something, but a pristine proof error? That's where fortunes are made. Do not assume every 1968 is common. That assumption has cost collectors untold fortunes. If you see the mint mark S below the date, slow down. Use a magnifier, because one tiny detail could separate a 1-cent coin from a 6-figure payday. This is your map. This is your warning. Don't just keep watching videos. Pull out your jars, your shoeboxes, your old coffee cans. Search with intent. Because right now, hidden in the forgotten corners of America, these coins are waiting for someone brave enough, curious enough, to see what everyone else has missed. And if you're wondering whether the chase is worth it, let me leave you with this. Today, one of these rare 1968 double-die pennies is valued up to $968,000. Nearly $1 million born from copper. And it could be sitting in your pocket right now. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a penny, and realizing it isn't worth 1 cent at all. What if I told you that a coin so ordinary, so invisible to the world for decades, could unlock the kind of wealth that changes everything? Not a silver dollar, not a gold coin. A simple Lincoln penny from 1975. But here's the twist. The Denver Mint struck a version of this coin that almost no one outside a circle of serious collectors even knows exists. It was minted in silence, buried in history, and forgotten, until a few appeared, and the world of coin collecting was shaken. Now pause for a moment. Picture yourself holding a jar of pennies from your grandfather's workshop. Dusty, ignored, left behind like spare change nobody cared about. What if one of those coins is the key? That is the haunting truth about the 1975 Lincoln penny with the tiny D mark pressed beneath the date. The mint never intended this coin to be a star. 1975 was supposed to be just another year in the endless march of copper. Yet mistakes slipped through the cracks. The kind of mistakes that turn an ordinary piece of metal into a legend. Misstrikes, double dies, vanishing details in Lincoln's face. Anomalies so subtle that most people toss them aside, not realizing they've just spent a small fortune at the corner store. And here's where the story grows darker. Some collectors have whispered about coins that were pulled from circulation by accident, destroyed, melted down before the public ever knew. A handful survived. A handful escaped. And those survivors now command staggering prices. But why does this matter to you? Because right now, at this very moment, there could be a 1975 D Lincoln penny rattling around in your own change dish, unrecognized, underestimated, waiting. I've seen lives transformed by a single discovery like this. A man in Colorado, sorting through an inherited coffee can of pennies, found one of these elusive errors. He thought it might buy him lunch. Instead, it bought him freedom. Think about that. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And all it takes is one, just one, to tilt the scale of fortune. So what exactly should you be looking for? First, the date. 1975. Clear, sharp, unmistakable. And directly beneath, the small D, stamped by the Denver Mint. But the treasure lies in the details. Look closely at Lincoln's profile. Are there doubled lines, ghost-like shadows where only one curve should be? Does the lettering show splits or faint echoes of itself? Is the coin struck slightly off-center, giving it an unusual frame? These errors, so often ignored, are exactly what collectors pay life-changing sums for. Do not assume your penny is worthless just because it looks worn. In fact, sometimes the rarest strikes hide in plain sight, disguised by decades of circulation. Take it seriously. Hold it to the light. Compare it. Because the difference between 1 cent and nearly $1 million can come down to a tiny imperfection that I can almost hear the question burning in your mind. How much is this really worth? The answer is staggering. Right now, verified 1975 D Lincoln pennies with these extraordinary errors have commanded values reaching as high as $975,000. Let that sink in. A coin people step over on the sidewalk, worth more than most homes in America. This is not about luck. It's about awareness. It's about having the eyes to see what others miss. And now you know the truth. Somewhere in the forgotten drawers, the piggy banks, the jars of change sitting on kitchen counters across America, sits a treasure disguised as a penny. Check every coin. Search every pocket. Don't let this story pass you by, because the next 1975 D Lincoln penny discovered could belong to you. And if it does, your life will never be the same. Right now, that single penny is worth up to $975,000. And it could be sitting in your hand at this very moment. Imagine pulling a coin from your pocket, something you've done 1,000 times. But this one feels different. You hold it up to the light, and it stares back at you like a secret keeping itself hidden in plain sight. What if I told you that a single 1989 Lincoln penny, a coin most people would drop in a parking lot and never think twice about, could hold a secret worth nearly $1 million? And what if I told you that right now, someone watching this will discover one? This is not a rumor. This is not a fairy tale. This is one of those rare crossroads where history, accident, and luck collide. But the real question is, will you notice it before it slips through your fingers? Let's rewind to 1989. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies. Most were ordinary, unremarkable, destined to jingle in pockets and roll under car seats. But in the chaos of mass production, something went wrong. Some pennies slipped into circulation missing one crucial detail, the mint mark. That tiny letter that tells you where it was born. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. Without it, the coin becomes a ghost. Phantom. A mistake that should not exist. At first glance, it looks just like every other brownish red penny you've ever seen. And that's the danger. You'd toss it in a tip jar. You'd slide it across a counter. You'd lose it to the world. But to a collector, this coin is no ordinary cent. It is a prize, a forbidden treasure that the mint never intended you to find. Here's the twist. Back then, people trusted the mint like a fortress of perfection. But mistakes leak. And when they do, they can change lives. There are stories whispered in coin-collecting circles of a man who spotted one of these 1989 no-mint mark pennies in his grandfather's cigar box. He thought it was nothing, until an appraiser told him it could pay off his mortgage twice over. Imagine that moment. 1 second it's just a penny, the next it's freedom. And yet, most people never see it. Not because it isn't out there, but because they aren't looking. How many times have you let a penny pass through your hands without even glancing at it? What if the one that slipped away was the one? Stop for a moment and think. Where are your old jars of coins? The ones in the kitchen drawer. The ones gathering dust in the garage. The ones left to you by parents or grandparents who never thought twice about them. Each one is a lottery ticket, waiting for the right set of eyes. But here's what makes this coin truly sinister in its beauty. You could own one right now and never know it. The design is the same. Lincoln's face, the familiar memorial reverse. The only clue is silence. The absence of that tiny mint mark below the date. If you see 1989, standing alone, bare, untouched, you may be staring at something life-changing. Collectors crave rarity the way treasure hunters crave gold. And rarity drives value into the stratosphere. Right now, the market whispers of these coins trading hands for sums that don't just change bank accounts. They change lives. Up to $989,000 for a single penny. Let that sink in. Something smaller than your thumbnail, lighter than a feather, worth more than most homes. So what do? You become the hunter. You become the one who refuses to let this story pass you by. Tonight, tomorrow, every spare moment, check your pennies. Look at every 1989. Search for that missing mint mark. Don't assume it's impossible, because someone somewhere is going to find one. And the only question is, will it be you, or will it be the person who checked when you didn't? Coins are history in your hands. They are stories written in metal. And sometimes those stories pay in freedom, in wealth, in dreams you thought were unreachable. This is not just about a coin. It's about the possibility that something so small, so ordinary, could change everything. So tonight, pull out your change jar. Pour it onto the table. Spread them out under the light. Your future could be staring back at you in copper and zinc. Do not let it slip away. Because right now, that 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is worth up to $989,000. And it could be sitting in your pocket at this very moment. What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, there's a single penny out there? A coin so ordinary looking, so forgettable, that millions of people have spent it without even blinking. Yet it hides a secret so powerful it could change someone's life forever? And what if I told you, it isn't an ancient relic locked away in a museum, but a modern coin, one struck in the early 90s, the kind you may have brushed past in your own drawer? The 1992 Lincoln penny with the D mint mark. But here's the twist. This isn't just another copper coin. No, this little disc of metal carries within it one of the most haunting stories in U.S. coinage. A mistake so subtle, so nearly invisible, that only the sharpest eyes in history ever caught it. And because of that mistake, a single specimen has fetched nearly $1 million at auction. Pause for a moment. Think about how many 1992 pennies were made. Billions. Circulating in change, dropped in soda machines, swept under car mats. But only a microscopic handful contain the secret that turns worthless change into treasure. That is where the story begins. Picture Denver, 1992. The mint is humming with presses slamming down blank copper-plated planchets, stamping Lincoln's familiar face. The machines are supposed to be flawless. But even the mint, this fortress of precision, sometimes makes errors that slip through the cracks. And in that year, an almost invisible design change slipped into circulation. The coin's reverse, the humble memorial building, wasn't quite right. It wasn't supposed to exist in that year with that design. And yet, a few escaped. Imagine being the worker who saw a box of pennies roll out, never knowing one of them could someday be worth more than their entire year's salary. Collectors call it the 1992 close AM, because on the reverse, the tiny gap between the A and M in America is gone. The two letters almost touch. At first glance, you'd never notice, but under the right light, the truth leaps out like a ghost. Now, here's where the story turns human. A man in the Midwest once spent years looking through pocket change, dismissed by friends as chasing a fantasy. Until one night, sifting through an old jar, he held up a penny and froze. The A and the M were too close. His hands shook. He drove to a dealer. That same coin later crossed the auction block and sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. That man, once laughed at, became the symbol of what it means to keep believing the impossible could be hiding right under your nose. So let me ask you, when was the last time you truly looked at the pennies in your pocket? Not just glanced, but really looked? Because the truth is, you may already have the power to change your life sitting in your hand. But beware, this treasure is a trickster. Many will look and many will miss it. You must know exactly what to search for. Here's how you spot it. Flip over a 1992 penny with the little D beneath Lincoln's date. Look closely at the word America on the back. Normally, the A and the M stand apart, a thin, clean space between them. But if they're so close they almost kiss, so near they seem carved from the same breath, that's when you know. You may be holding one of the rarest modern pennies in existence. Don't let it slip through your fingers. Don't spend it on a pack of gum. Don't sell it for a few bucks on eBay. This coin demands patience, proof, and courage. Take it to a professional grader, secure it, and let its true value shine. Because right now, as you hear my voice, the 1992 D-Close AM Lincoln penny has commanded up to $992,000. Nearly $1 million. For a single cent. So tonight, when the world is quiet, I dare you to reach into that jar on the counter, that shoebox under the bed, that dusty coin book in the closet. The treasure may already be yours. And if you want more of these secrets, more hidden keys to wealth that most people overlook, then join me here. Subscribe, stay curious, and never stop searching. Because history has shown us one thing: the greatest fortunes are not always locked away in vaults. Sometimes they're hiding in plain sight. Imagine this. You're holding a single penny in your hand. Copper brown, ordinary, nothing special. Until you notice one small detail, a letter stamped just below the year 1993. Adi. Denver. Harmless at first glance, but hidden in that mark could be a secret worth more than most houses in America. And here's the shocking truth. Most people who've held this coin in their hands never knew they were holding a fortune. What if I told you that a coin so small it disappears into a couch cushion has changed lives? That somewhere in the Midwest, a man once pulled a 1993 D Lincoln penny from a jar, thought it was spare change, and later learned it was worth more than his annual salary. This isn't folklore. This is the danger and the beauty of rare coins. The mint makes mistakes, history leaves clues, and the lucky few who notice them unlock wealth most people only dream of. Let's step back. The year 1993. The U.S. Mint was in transition. Technology was improving, but human error never vanished. Some of those 1993 pennies struck in Denver carried flaws invisible to the distracted eye. Double dies, misaligned strikes, off-center minting. Tiny imperfections. Yet those imperfections transformed what should have been a 1-cent piece of metal into a treasure. Now, imagine the betrayal. Millions of Americans handed these pennies over to vending machines, banks, and cash registers, never realizing they were trading away thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, for nothing. They trusted the mint to deliver uniform coins. But the mint, in its silence, allowed errors to slip through, scatter, and hide in plain sight. And the only people who benefit are those sharp enough to look closer. And here's where it gets personal. Years ago, I was counting change at my grandmother's kitchen table. She had a coffee can filled with pennies, the kind passed down from paychecks, piggy banks, and Sunday morning change. I remember sifting through them with no real purpose, just the joy of the hunt. Then I saw it. A 1993 penny with a tiny mark I couldn't place. Back then, I didn't know what to look for. I put it back in the can. I let it go. To this day, I wonder, did I let a small fortune slip through my fingers? And that's the danger, isn't it? Not knowing. How many times have you tossed pennies into a jar, or worse, into the hands of a cashier without even looking? What if the coin that could pay off your house, your debts, your future, was right there? The truth is, collectors today will pay staggering amounts for rare 1993 D Lincoln pennies in pristine condition or with unique minting errors. We're not talking about a few $100s. We're talking life-changing wealth. Auctions have proven it. Private collectors whisper about it. And yet, 99% of Americans never stop to check. So, how do you protect yourself from being part of the 99%? You start with your eyes. Hold that 1993 D penny close. Look for doubling in the date in the word. Check for off-center strikes where the design is shifted. Search for missing details in Lincoln's coat or beard, the kind of imperfections only a rushed minting process could create. And above all, check the condition. A coin that shines like the day it left the mint is worth exponentially more than one worn down in circulation. Do not assume that every penny is worthless. Do not assume that your spare change is just spare change. Every coin is a question. Will you take the time to answer it, or will you let opportunity pass by unnoticed? Because right now, one of these 1993 D Lincoln pennies is valued up to an astonishing $993,000. Nearly $1 million, disguised as a penny. And it could be in a coffee can, a drawer, or even in your pocket at this very moment. So here's the choice. Will you go through your coins tonight, or will you let the chance of a lifetime slip through your hands? Check your pennies. Find your treasure. And never, ever forget, sometimes the smallest coin carries the biggest secret. Imagine this. You're holding a penny. Ordinary, copper-colored, dull from years of use. You could flip it in the air, toss it in a fountain, or hand it to a cashier without a second thought. But what if I told you that a single penny from 1993, with no mint mark, could be the very key to rewriting the story of your life? This isn't a fairy tale. It's not a rumor. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes history slips through the cracks, and when it does, it creates treasures so rare, most people will live and die never even knowing they exist. Here's the part that keeps me awake at night. Right now, somewhere in America, a 1993 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is waiting to be discovered. And if it lands in your hand, you might be holding not just 1 cent, but close to $1 million. Why? Because 1993 was supposed to be just another year in the long legacy of Lincoln pennies. But something happened. A mistake. A silence at the mint. Coins struck without their identity, without the mark that tells the world where they came from. The absence of that tiny letter, Philadelphia's missing signature, turned a simple piece of change into an outlaw, a ghost of the minting floor. Think about it. Millions of pennies churned off the presses that year. Mountains of copper-plated zinc destined to vanish into soda machines, pockets, piggy banks. But every so often, one slipped out naked, unmarked, defiant. A coin with no home. That's the coin we're talking about. That's the coin collectors whisper about. And here's the heart-pounding truth. One man already stumbled onto one of these errors. He didn't know what he had. He nearly spent it at a gas station. It sat for years in a jar of change, forgotten, until a friend told him to take a second look. That penny, the one he almost threw away, is now valued at nearly $1 million. So let me ask you, what about you? How many times have you emptied your pockets without looking twice? How many old coffee cans in the garage? How many dusty coin jars in the attic have you ignored, thinking they were worthless? Every time you walk past them, you might be walking past the easiest fortune of your life. Here's what makes this coin even more dangerous. Most people don't even know what they're looking for. They don't realize the power of the missing mint mark. They don't realize that on a 1993 penny, it changes everything. And worse, they might not spot the subtle details that confirm it's real. So listen closely. This is your treasure map. First, you'll need a 1993 Lincoln penny. Sharp eyes required. Turn it over. Study it. The date should read clearly, 1993. But where you expect to see a mint mark, usually a small letter under the date, there's nothing. A void. A silence. No P. No D. Nothing. But be warned. Not every coin missing a mark is genuine. Some are worn. Some are damaged. Don't fool yourself. That's why the condition matters. Shiny, Crisp, untarnished pennies carry the greatest weight. Professional grading is essential if you think you've struck gold. Because if it's real, if you're holding the genuine phantom of 1993, you're staring down a coin that today can fetch up to $993,000. Now, let's stop for a second. Imagine what that means for you. One coin, one discovery. That's the down payment on freedom. That's debts erased. That's the dream of finally living life on your own terms. And here's the kicker. You don't need to dig through ancient treasure chests or travel the world to find it. Could be sitting right now in the change bowl by your door. It could be hiding in the handful of coins you got back at the grocery store. Could be in the palm of your hand tomorrow morning. Do not underestimate this. Rare coins do not wait forever. The longer they hide, the fewer chances you have to be the one who uncovers them. So I'll leave you with this. Tonight, when the house is quiet and you're alone with your thoughts, ask yourself, how many chances have I missed in life because I didn't look closely enough? Don't let this be another. Go check your coins. Look at every 1993 penny you can find. Because right now, this exact penny is worth up to $993,000. And it could be sitting in someone's pocket. Maybe yours. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary, so familiar, that you wouldn't think twice about dropping it in a jar, sliding it across a counter, or leaving it forgotten in a drawer. Now imagine that same coin carrying a secret so rare, so unexpected, that it could be worth more than the car you drive, more than the house you live in, maybe more than every penny you've ever touched in your life. There's a coin from the year 2000, a Lincoln penny. But not just any Lincoln penny. This one hides something almost invisible, and it's that invisibility that makes it priceless. A missing mint mark, a tiny omission by the United States Mint, an accident that slipped through their watchful eyes. And because of that oversight, the coin that should have been worth just 1 cent suddenly became a piece of treasure. But here's the thing they never tell you. Mistakes like these aren't supposed to exist. Every penny is supposed to carry the mark of its birthplace. A small D for Denver, a quiet P for Philadelphia, or an S for San Francisco. That little mark is the fingerprint of the mint. But in the year 2000, a few escaped without it. No mint mark, no identity. And in the world of coins, that's like discovering a passport with no nation stamped inside. A ghost coin. Collectors know what this means. It means rarity, and rarity is everything. But what most people don't know is how powerful one mistake can be. A single missing mint mark has turned forgotten pennies into life-changing fortunes. This happened before. One man in Ohio stumbled onto one in his father's collection, tossed aside in a coffee tin. He thought it was worth nothing. By the end of the auction, it paid off his mortgage. Think about that. A single cent, erasing decades of debt. And here's where it gets almost haunting. These coins weren't minted in tiny batches for collectors. They were released to the public. They were spent. They were dropped into soda machines, tucked into birthday cards, handed out as change at gas stations. Which means they're still out there. Somewhere. Maybe in your kitchen drawer. Maybe in your wallet right now. But don't think finding one is easy. That's what makes the hunt so thrilling. You'll need sharp eyes. You'll need patience. Most pennies from 2000 will carry a mint mark. Philadelphia's P.
Denver's D.
San Francisco's proof S. But when you find one without any mark at all, with that clean, empty space, that's when you stop breathing for a second. That's when you realize you may be holding the coin that changes everything. Now, listen carefully. To spot it, you don't need magnifying glasses or special tools. Just flip the penny, look just under the date. If it's blank, no letter at all, then you might have discovered it. But here's the warning. Many people confuse worn-out coins with no mint mark errors. If the area looks rubbed down, faint, or scratched away, it's not the one. The true no mint mark coin will be perfectly blank, untouched, like it was struck that way on purpose. And if you find it, guard it. Do not, under any circumstances, let it slip back into circulation. Do not rush to a pawn shop or hand it to a dealer who doesn't know what they're looking at. These coins belong in the hands of serious collectors and auction houses, because that's where the real value is unlocked. So how much is this forgotten treasure really worth? Right now, a 2000 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has been valued as high as $200,000. 200,000 for a single coin that looks just like every other cent you've ever touched. The only question left is this. When you reach into your pocket, when you open that old jar of change tonight, will you be the one who finds it? Because someone will. And when they do, their life will never look the same again. Have you ever wondered if the most valuable treasure you'll ever hold in your hands isn't locked in a bank vault or buried underground, but sitting silently in your pocket? Tonight, I'm about to reveal the story of a single penny, a 2002 Lincoln cent, that could change everything you thought you knew about money, luck, and fate itself. At first glance, it's nothing. A coin you've ignored 1,000 times. Copper-colored, worn, ordinary. You'd toss it on a counter, drop it in a tip jar, hand it to a child. But hidden inside this year, 2002, there is a mystery. A minting error so rare, so almost impossible, that it transformed this humble cent into a life-altering prize. And here's the part that should send chills down your spine. You would never see it unless you knew exactly what to look for. Why does it matter? Because in 2002, the United States Mint made a quiet, almost invisible mistake. A mistake that slipped through machines, past inspectors, and into circulation. Some pennies that year were struck with no mint mark at all. That tiny P, D, or S that should have been there, gone, erased, forgotten. But the absence is what makes it extraordinary. Imagine it. The most ordinary object in the world suddenly becomes a key to financial freedom. One man once claimed he sold a no-mint 2002 penny for more than the price of a new car. Another collector guarded his like a holy relic, refusing to spend it, knowing that time would only make it more valuable. And still, thousands of us might have handled one and never known it. That is the betrayal. The U.S. Mint never announced it.
No headlines. No warnings.
Just silence. What if you've already had one in your hands? What if it slipped through your fingers years ago? Lost in a handful of change at a gas station or left on a diner table for a tip. That's the kind of regret that haunts collectors. That's why they search. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a 6-figure fortune can be no bigger than a missing on metal. So let's break the silence. Here is the secret you need to know. A true 2002 no-mint mark Lincoln penny will not carry the D from Denver, the S from San Francisco, or the P from Philadelphia. Instead, above the date where your eyes expect to see that tiny letter, there is nothing. Smooth space, an absence so easy to miss it almost mocks you. And here is where the danger lies. Scammers, counterfeiters, and careless sellers have flooded the market with fakes. Ordinary pennies scraped down, altered to appear rare. Do not fall for them. The weight, the strike, the faint details of Lincoln's jaw and the lettering around "In God We Trust" must all line up with genuine minting standards. If they don't, you're staring at a worthless imposter. Now picture this. You've got an old jar of coins in a drawer, one you haven't touched in years. Maybe it belonged to your father or grandfather. Maybe it's been collecting dust since you were a kid. Inside could be a single 2002 penny without a mint mark. One coin, one stroke of luck. And suddenly, you're staring at a piece worth more than most people's yearly salary. I want you to understand something. These coins are not fairy tales. They're not myths whispered in coin clubs. They're real. They've been found. They've been sold. And while the mint would prefer you to believe every coin is just worth a cent, the truth is, mistakes slip through. And those mistakes can transform ordinary lives. So here is my call to you. Tonight, when this video ends, don't just move on. Go to your drawer. Open the jar. Check every single 2002 Lincoln penny you have. Look above the date. Search for that missing mint mark like your future depends on it. Because one day you might look back and realize this was the moment you discovered a secret the rest of the world ignored. And here is the final truth, the one fact that should make your heart race. Right now, a verified 2002 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has sold for as much as $202,000. Fortune, hidden inside a single cent waiting for someone just like you to notice. Imagine pulling a penny from your pocket and holding more power in your hand than most people ever touch in their lifetime. Not a gold bar, not a rare diamond, just a single copper-colored coin. And yet, the 2013 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has been known to sell for a staggering $213,000. How does a coin everyone ignores, something most of us drop into a jar or lose between the couch cushions, suddenly transform into life-changing wealth? That's the secret you were never supposed to know. The truth begins with silence. No mint mark. To most, that tiny absence is invisible, meaningless. But to the trained eye, it is everything. In 2013, the U.S. Mint struck billions of pennies. Most carried the familiar little D or P, telling the world where they were born. But every once in a while, the process faltered. The mark disappeared. A whisper of imperfection slipped into circulation. And that whisper has now become a scream of value. Collectors call it a phantom coin. The kind that doesn't announce itself but hides, patient, waiting for the right hands to discover it. And if you think this is just a harmless error, think again. People have lost fortunes by spending one of these without knowing. Imagine buying a soda, handing over a penny worth hundreds of thousands. Gone. Forever. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly looked at your change? Not just glanced, but studied. Do you remember the smell of copper as a child? The way you dig through a pile of coins, hoping to find something older, something different, something that felt like treasure? That feeling wasn't childish curiosity. It was instinct, an ancient hunger for discovery, and it still lives inside you. Now picture this. Somewhere, right now, there is a man who almost threw away his future. He had a jar of coins sitting untouched for years. One evening, while cleaning, he started sorting them. He nearly swept the pennies straight into a Coinstar machine. But one caught his eye. No mint mark. He hesitated, turned it over in the light, and froze. That single moment of paying attention instead of dismissing put him on the path to a $213,000 payday. That man's story isn't a myth. It's a warning. What if the same opportunity is already in your home? What if your freedom, your chance to pay off debts, to finally say yes to the life you've been waiting for, is rattling around in a coffee tin or buried at the back of a drawer? Here's what you need to know. The 2013 Lincoln penny with no mint mark doesn't shout. It hides. You won't find bold colors or dramatic misprints. You'll find silence. Look at the obverse, the side with Lincoln's portrait. At the bottom right, below the date, you should see a tiny letter. If it's missing, completely gone, that's when your heart should skip. But be careful. Dirt, scratches, or fading can trick the eye. You need clarity, true absence, a perfect void where a mint mark should have been. And don't make the mistake of rushing to sell it for pennies on the dollar. Too many people lose everything by settling for the first offer. Consult experts. Protect it. Authenticate it. Because once the world knows you hold one of these coins, you're not just selling copper. You're holding leverage. So tonight, when the house is quiet, I want you to do something radical. Grab your jars, your drawers, your old piggy banks. Lay out your pennies under the brightest light you can find. Examine each one like your future depends on it, because maybe it does. The 2013 no mint mark penny isn't just a coin. It's proof that fortune hides in the places we overlook. That wealth doesn't always glitter. It sometimes disguises itself as the most ordinary thing in the world. And right now, this exact penny is worth up to $213,000, and it could be waiting in your pocket at this very moment. Imagine this. You hand over a penny at the store, not realizing you've just spent a fortune. A small, copper-colored coin worth more than your car, maybe even your house. Gone in a heartbeat. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But there's one modern Lincoln penny that's been quietly changing lives, and hardly anyone outside the coin world even knows it exists. A 2014 Lincoln penny with a small d under the date. Ordinary on the surface, yet extraordinary beneath. And tonight, I'm going to tell you why that tiny coin could be worth more than you ever dreamed. But before I explain, ask yourself, when was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not glanced at it, not tossed it in a jar, but really looked at it? What if the next coin you ignore is the one that could rewrite your financial future? Let me take you back to 2014, a year when billions of pennies rolled out of the Denver Mint. To most people, they were just loose change. To the mint, they were just numbers on a production sheet. But buried in those mountains of copper-plated zinc were mistakes. Slips of machinery, tiny misalignments, double strikes, and minting quirks that escaped unnoticed. Errors so subtle they look like nothing to the untrained eye, but to collectors, they're treasure. And here's where the story sharpens into something almost cinematic. One collector, just like you, found a strange-looking 2014 penny in their change. The letters of Liberty slightly doubled. The image of Lincoln's profile faintly shifted. It didn't look right, but it felt important. Instead of spending it, they checked it against known mint errors. And what they uncovered wasn't just an error. It was a rarity. That little coin, once worth a cent, was suddenly worth thousands. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. A coin you could have walked past on a grocery store floor could instead pay off debt, cover a medical bill, or fuel a dream you've been putting off for years. And yet, these treasures are hiding in plain sight, passed hand to hand every single day. But here's the part most people never hear. The mint doesn't talk about these mistakes. They'd rather the public never notice. Why? Because every error is a tiny crack in the perfection of their system, a reminder that even the government can make mistakes. And those mistakes can make ordinary people rich. So what exactly should you look for? Start with the date, 2014. Beneath it, the D-mint mark for Denver. Then look closer. Errors from this year include double die obverse coins, where Lincoln's features, or the word Liberty, appear doubled. Some have slight misalignments in the strike, leaving ghost-like impressions. Others have plating bubbles that create unusual raised textures on the coin's surface. These aren't flaws to dismiss. They're golden tickets. Now let me reset your attention, because this is the moment that matters most. Imagine finding one of these coins in your own drawer. Imagine that rush of discovery, the thundering realization that you're holding a piece of history disguised as pocket change. How many times have we told ourselves wealth is out of reach, only to ignore the chance that it's sitting right under our nose? And here's the warning. Too many people make the mistake of selling rare coins for next to nothing. Pawn shops, quick cash dealers, even friends who don't know better. Don't do it. Knowledge is your protection. Knowing what to look for is what separates the lucky finder from the one who throws away a fortune. So tonight, I'm urging you, check your change. Go through that old jar in the kitchen. Pull out that shoebox in the closet. Don't wait until someone else brags about their life-changing find while you realize you might have already spent yours. Because the truth is, rare 2014 D pennies with the right errors have been valued at staggering sums. And right now, this exact penny is worth up to $214,000. And it could be sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting to be discovered. Imagine holding a single penny, just one, and realizing it could buy you a house. Not a handful of pennies. Not a jar. Just one. Now here's the part that almost nobody knows. In 2016, a mistake slipped through the walls of the US Mint. A mistake so quiet, so invisible, that it looked like an ordinary Lincoln cent, until collectors began whispering about the truth. A penny with no mint mark. A penny that never should have existed. Why does this matter? Because in the world of rare coins, a missing mark is like a missing signature on a priceless painting. It transforms something common into something legendary. And when people started discovering 2016 pennies without that tiny letter stamp, the market lost its breath. Think about it. Hundreds of millions of pennies were struck that year. They poured out of presses in Denver and Philadelphia. Most carried their proud marks. A little D, a little P, proof of origin. But then came the anomalies. Pennies struck clean, without a birthplace, without an identity. As if the mint itself had erased their past. Collectors call these coins ghosts. And ghosts, as you know, fetch a fortune. One man, flipping through a handful of change after buying coffee, nearly dropped to the floor when he realized the truth about the coin in his palm. He thought it was just another copper-colored cent. But under the right light, the absence screamed louder than any engraving. That penny sold for a life-changing sum. Here's the danger, though. If you don't know what you're looking at, you'll spend it. You'll hand over a $200,000 treasure to a cashier for a stick of gum. That's why you're here. Because this isn't just about coins. It's about the possibility that your freedom is already in your possession. Now, let's cut deeper. In 2017, the Mint made a decision that rattled tradition. For the first time, they stamped a P on Philadelphia coins to honor their 225th anniversary. Before then, Philadelphia coins had quietly gone mint mark free. But in 2016, something went wrong. The transition blurred. Some coins bore nothing at all when they should have. They weren't supposed to exist. And that overlap, that anomaly, created one of the most valuable modern pennies of our lifetime. Ask yourself this: what if you already touched one of these? What if it slipped through your fingers in the checkout line? What if the dream you're chasing was sitting in your pocket the whole time? Listen closely, because this is how you'll know. First, find a 2016 Lincoln penny. Flip it. Look just above the date. You'll either see a tiny D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. If you see nothing at all, no D, no P, that's when your heart should stop. That's the whisper of the ghost. That's the coin the Mint didn't mean to give you. But beware, there are tricks, illusions, and damage that can fool you. If a mint mark has been rubbed off, scratched, or worn down, it's worthless. You need sharp, clean detail everywhere else on the coin, with that single, haunting absence over the date. Only then can you be sure you're holding the real thing. Now picture it. You're standing in your kitchen, you pull open the drawer where old change rattles. The light hits one coin just right. No mint mark. Perfect condition. In that moment, you realize your life just changed. Bills disappear. Debt dissolves. The freedom you've been waiting for is suddenly in the palm of your hand. Because right now, the market value of a verified 2016 Lincoln penny with no mint mark can soar to $216,000. And here's the truth. Somebody out there has it. Somebody will find it. The only question left is this: will it be you? Check your change tonight. Don't wait. Your future might already be waiting for you in the quietest, smallest coin you'll ever hold. Imagine this: a coin so ordinary, so plain, that you've probably held it in your hand without giving it a second thought. A penny. Just a copper-colored sliver of metal, born in 2017. But what if I told you that one of those pennies, marked with a quiet little D from the Denver Mint, hides a secret so valuable it could rewrite your entire life in a single moment? What if the coin you ignored at the bottom of your drawer was actually the key to freedom, wealth, and a story no one would ever believe unless you showed them? It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But that's exactly how history hides its treasures. Inside the everyday, waiting for someone like you to notice. Back in 2017, millions of Lincoln pennies rolled off the presses. They weren't special, at least not to the naked eye. The Mint was efficient, ruthless, stamping out billions with machine-like perfection. Or so they thought. But in the shadows of that process, something unexpected happened. Tiny flaws, slips in alignment, strikes so faint they barely left an impression. A few coins emerged not like the others, coins born with mistakes, coins that broke the unspoken promise of uniformity. And those errors, those accidents, are worth far more than the Mint could ever admit. Collectors whisper about them like ghost stories. A double die here, a misplaced mint mark there. One coin, pulled from pocket change by a man in Ohio, sold for more than the car he was driving. Another surfaced in a forgotten coffee can in Kansas, and changed the destiny of the family who found it. These are not rumors. They are warnings. Proof that lightning can strike, if you're the one holding the right coin when it does. Now stop for a moment and picture this: you're holding a 2017 Lincoln penny. First, it looks normal. Lincoln's weary profile staring forward. "In God we trust," etched above him. That little D, pressed by the Denver Mint below the date. But tilt it under the light and suddenly, something's wrong. The words are doubled. The rim is off-center. The mint mark is misplaced. A flaw that shouldn't exist. That flaw is the difference between 1 cent and a fortune. Can you imagine the rush? The heart-racing realization that the coin you almost spent on gum is actually worth thousands. That tiny circle of copper could become the story you tell for the rest of your life. And the truth is, you'd never forgive yourself if you let it slip away because you didn't know what to look for. So here's the secret. If you ever come across a 2017 penny with the Denver D, pay attention. Look for doubling in the lettering, especially in the word or the date. Check the edges. Off-center strikes are like fingerprints of rarity. Inspect the mint mark itself. A faint blur, a misplacement, even a trace of doubling could skyrocket the value. These are the clues, the treasure map etched into metal by mistake. Miss them, and you might spend away a life-changing discovery without ever realizing it. And here's what makes this moment so urgent. Right now, collectors are hunting. They are scouring rolls of pennies, digging through old jars, desperate to find what others overlook. Every day, another rare 2017 D penny vanishes into a private collection, never to be seen again. And every day, someone who didn't bother to check loses out on wealth that was right in their hands. You cannot afford to be that person, so tonight, when the house is quiet and the world outside has gone dark, I want you to take out your coins. Dig through that old jar, that dusty box, that forgotten drawer. Hold each penny to the light like it's a clue in a mystery only you can solve. Because somewhere, waiting, could be the coin that transforms your story forever. How much is this treasure worth? Right now, the rarest 2017 D Lincoln penny has been valued at up to $217,000. That's not a typo. A single cent that holds the weight of a small fortune. And here's the haunting truth. It could be sitting in your pocket right now.